yeah, I looked battered, and my husband
Wow.
looked at me and he said like why did you go that way, like kind of telling me off a bit. Why did you go that for the hair product? And I'm like, because I needed it. And he's like, why don't you just make your own? And then I was like, make my own, what do you mean? And I was a little bit angry with him, to be fair, because I just thought that was such an insensitive thing to say. How can I make my own? I don't even know what's in this thing. But actually in that moment a seed was sown, and it really.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Naturally You Radio. My name's Leah Sam, I'm the Naturally You coach, and today we are joined by the founder, the creator, the combiner of the one of our best-selling skincare products in the shop, Pure Goodness, and the founder is the sister Sherilyn Dos Santos. Welcome to the podcast, Sherilyn.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so can we start off by just letting everybody know who you are, what it is that you do, and why you started doing the work that you do?
Yeah. So, as you said, I'm Sherilyn Dos Santos, the founder of Pure Goodness. We are a natural hair and skincare brand. And I've been going for well over a decade now, which sounds crazy when I say it out loud. But I actually started back in 2013. So, how I started really, it was out of necessity. I was my first customer. I didn't start out with the intention to create a business. I always say that I had a bit of an accidental business because, yeah, after transitioning from wearing relaxers for many, many years, I decided to wear my hair natural and basically was just struggling because I had some kind of chemical treatment from the age of 9. I didn't really know like what to do with my hair. It was like alien. And I remember I eventually found one product that would help to make it more manageable before I could even put a comb through it. But it came from America. It was hard to get. At the time, I was living in East London, and the one supplier and distributor was far in West London, off the beaten track. Had to get a tube and a bus, and then walk into the middle of an industrial estate somewhere in Acton. So anyway, yeah, the defining moment was I was 7 months pregnant with my first daughter, and I ran out of products. I need to get some. So, and I had really bad hyperemesis. Yeah, during the pregnancy, like the frozen period time. So I went on this mission to get the product. It was horrible. It was hot. It was like my daughter was born in October, so this could have been about August, peak of summer, and I was just stopping every minute, throwing up on the way. When I
Is
got
it?
back home, yeah, I looked battered, and my husband
Wow.
looked at me and he said like why did you go that way, like kind of telling me off a bit. Why did you go that for the hair product? And I'm like, because I needed it. And he's like, why don't you just make your own? And then I was like, make my own, what do you mean? And I was a little bit angry with him, to be fair, because I just thought that was such an insensitive thing to say. How can I make my own? I don't even know what's in this thing. But actually in that moment a seed was sown, and it really sparked a curiosity in me, like what was in this product that made my hair, when I spritzed it on, the comb could just glide through. Like nothing would do that, keep it hydrated for more than a couple of hours. And I just got curious, basically, started going down the rabbit hole, reading the ingredients labels, trying to decode them, because those labels are
Yeah.
written in the Latin and words. So didn't know what anything meant, but I soon found out, oh, aloe vera, that's what that means. Okay. Oh, that is coconut oil. And I literally decoded it, and I did kind of end up making my own.
What happened after that? Once you had made your own, what happened after that?
So I kind of replicated the product. Of course, it wasn't the exact thing, but I understood the
Yeah.
ingredients. I understood what it was doing. Like they call it the active ingredients, and I just started like making for me, and then my husband as well. He had like really bad dry scalp, flaky scalp. After he would wash his hair, it would be awful. And then again, I just started researching what could help to alleviate that, and I made like a hair cream. So now I had this hair mist and this hair cream, and it was doing wonders for him. And then the family members, again, this now you see a lot of people wearing their hair natural, but back in 2013, it wasn't as common as it is now. So you couldn't just like turn to a system maybe you can do now, or go on YouTube or the other apps that we've got now. It was you would kind of talk to people and see what they were doing. So friends and family started asking, "Oh, what are you doing with your hair? Or like, what are you putting on your hair? Can I have some? It looks really good." And then by the time I was giving it to my sisters and certain friends, like people were like, "Sharon, this is really, really good. You need to be selling this."
Mm.
Again, another idea was sparked. And had a friend, and she had really bad eczema. And she was using this product, this hair cream that I created for hair on her eczema flare-ups. And it was totally resolving the flare-up.
Oh,
And she was like, Sherilyn, like, what is in this? And she was at this time, she was big woman, and she had eczema as a child. Nothing had worked like that. So now I started to understand like what is in it that's healing for skin then? And the research just carried on. And I must have been on the research thing for about a good a good three years, researching, making for family and friends. And it was a yeah, and it was finally in 2013 when I kind of set up and started like selling to the public. But at that point, I'd been making products for about 4 years.
wow.
So I had like ton of books. Again, the online thing wasn't as big as it is now. So I was there with my physical books, reading, making notes, trying stuff up in my kitchen. We had quite a small flat at the time, so we didn't have lots of storage. So I store things in containers on the balcony, and it was just like using what we had, using the kitchen by night when everyone had gone to bed, and just really experimenting with things. And then I realized, okay, if I'm going to sell to the public, I need to know, I need to do this properly. What are the rules? And that's when I enrolled in a few courses. We were part of Europe back then, so you had to sign up to all these European standards and get things tested in a certain way. So yeah, I did all of that. And then I took, my big leap and started selling in Brixton Market. And that was really a different moment because it's one thing when the people buying your products, they know you,
Yeah,
and they're telling you great things. But
yeah.
when you get strangers that come back 2 weeks later and they're like, oh my gosh, that thing that I bought from you, like what was in it? And then they're asking me more questions and then they're asking me, can I do it in a bigger size? And then they're saying, oh, do you make this type of products as well? And I just became this go-to person in Brixton Market that people were coming to with their different ailments. Some I wasn't even aware of, but I was always curious to try to understand, like, what might be the cause. I suppose I've always been a bit of a curious person. You have to
Yeah.
be in this type of industry, but it really served me well in going away and formulating things that would help to alleviate people's issues. And that's really where it started.
Mm. So, in your research and the work that you've done and the customers you've had, what have you learned about Black women's skin and hair health and the products that are out there and available? Um, and obviously it's very different now, but I
Yeah,
think like the product landscape of
yeah.
what is available for Black women
Hmm.
as to everyone, and that what actually works for us. What do you think about that kind of? I know the struggle is not there as much as when you started, but what have
Yeah.
you seen since you've launched the business?
Okay, so first of all, when I started, I noticed that, yeah, like I said, I was wearing my hair natural, and quite a few women globally were, but it was a bit of the beginning of the wave, and it wasn't as big in the UK as it was in America. So just because of that point alone, certain big brands that had always been marketed to Black women were trying to tweak their product range for Black women. So you would see, I don't know, I don't want to name any brands, but say some kind of activator with shea butter. So they got very savvy at putting good ingredients on the front of the label. And because historically as Black women, let's just be real, we haven't been as clued up on ingredients and what's good for us. And we've been very used to going to other people and going to shops owned by people that do not use the products and asking them,
Mm.
what would you recommend? Which is
Yeah, yeah,
crazy
yeah.
now. So where we would go and then that person would say, "Oh, this has got shea butter, this has got castor oil," and we're like, "Oh, we're buying the stuff in droves," and so that's what happened. That's what I saw. The slight change in the market, and now it's just got to the point where okay, we're getting a bit more savvy, so people are demanding a little bit more. Now, one way, and it's what I educate people because I've done workshops over the years, is when you read an ingredient. The ingredients are at the top that they are have the largest quantity in the product, and as you get to the bottom of the ingredients list, that has less of the ingredients in it, if that makes sense, like percentage wise. So if you see that the last ingredient is the shea butter or the last ingredient is the
Yeah.
castor oil, then you really probably got like a minimal, negligible amount in there to do anything, and it's still filled with the petroleum, which isn't particularly good for us. Yes, we're so used to being greased up, to the point that we even coined the term grease your scalp, grease your face. It is literally grease we're putting on ourselves, but it's not good for our body. It's not good internally as well. So they've marketed products out of us, but they're still not very good. Yeah, and you've got to really understand that label and like what's in it to know that. So I've seen that women have got a bit more savvy, and part of my mission and part of my journey was to educate women, because I was like, every time I'd find out more information, it was a bit like I was a bit flabbergasted, like, oh my goodness. And then you get a little bit indignant, like, how dare these people like treat us this way, like we're such stupid people, just selling us, nonsense things that are causing harm when you start to look at the relaxers and the endocrine disruptors. So I went on a whole mission. So for a long time I was doing workshops, educating people about the ingredients, giving them the opportunity to like try and mix up their own. Since relocating, we haven't got back on that, but that's still very part of it, educating people. So when I run my stall from the various events, whether that be Black Culture Market or Kenby's in Birmingham, I'm always available to answer people's questions, and to share what I can, because it's really important that we educate ourselves, whether it be on what we're putting on our body, what we're putting in our body, we just need to get educated. So on this journey, I think we've gotten a bit more savvy, but we're not there yet, because I still see all the ads and all the you can't go on social media really these days without being marketed to, and it's still a lot of people that don't look like us trying to sell us stuff. And that's when you get to the bottom of the business, even if they're using people that look like us in the ads, the people that make it, often they're thinking about the bottom line, which is profit. We are a very profitable community in terms of making other people rich. Whether those people have our best interest at heart is a whole different thing. So I feel like my mission is still very much needed, because we're nowhere near where I think we need to be as a people.
So on that point of education, and I find this with the work that I do as well, sisters will go online, like you can go online and search for, is
Mm.
shea butter good for my hair? You can go on YouTube, you can go on Instagram, TikTok, you can go to an event, and there will be two different people who are both classed
Yeah.
as experts. One of them says, do not put shea butter on your hair, it won't get absorbed, the molecules are too big. Somebody else has got a shea butter based range of skin and hair care products. So, and then again, I do find this in the work that I do as well. How can sisters know what information to trust when it comes to education? And, can you just speak to the sisters who do find
Mhm.
the information overload confusing, and aren't sure what
Yeah.
direction to go in?
Okay. Yeah, of course. I would say, and this is what I do as well, because whilst I'm in this space and I formulate and I create and I serve, of course, I also have hair, right? I have skin, and I try to take care of it. I have my family. So I'm always trying to figure out things. I've got three daughters. They've all got totally different hair types, textures. So I'm always trying to see really what works well for them. So I hear you about the marketing and the different messages and the conflicting messages. What I would say, and I think this is quite important, is that you need to learn your hair, right? And you need to learn your scalp. And by that, I mean, what does your hair even feel like? What does your scalp feel like when it doesn't have any product on it? When it does have product on it? What product did you put on it? And then it felt like this. So there's a little bit of just slowing down and relying a little bit less on what people are telling you, and almost becoming a little bit more intuitive and discerning of yourself. And I'll use myself as an example. So, like I said, I started relaxing. Well, I had a Jerry curl first, yeah, copying my mum and my older sisters at 9. I had that for probably about 3 years. And about when I went to secondary school, I wanted this a relaxer. From curly to relaxer, awful, did that. So by the time I'm in my late teens, I'm now just wearing back-to-back braids, scalp tension. Like my scalp went through a lot in about a decade. Yeah, it was abused. Yeah, in a way that it should never have been. As a result of that, I had very very sensitive scalp. I had lots of scalp burns, some patches, and lots of sensitivity. So when I would wash my hair, afterwards my scalp would just be so painful at the back in very particular spots, be painful, but I've just washed my hair and itching. It'll take a few days for that to resolve. Then I realized, oh, there's something in the shampoo that is aggravating those parts of my scalp. But if I wasn't like really trying to see when does the itching flare up and like slowing down, I might have just said, oh, it's itchy scalp. Let me go
Mm,
get some dandruff shampoo. Let
yeah.
me go and put some type of grease. But I
Yeah.
had to be
Yeah.
really like slow down to what was going on, listen to the shampoo. And that's really what triggered me making my two-in-one herbal cleanser,
Oh, nice.
because I realized that SLS, which is sodium lauryl sulfate, strips the scalp. Sodium lauryl sulfate, if you don't know, it's an ingredient that is in most any cleansing agent. So from your dish soap to your face wash to your hand wash, they just put it in different ratios. So you can imagine your washing liquid would have a higher amount because it wants to strip out the grease of your dishes, and your shampoo would have a lesser amount, but it's still the same ingredient doing that same thing. So the same way how it strips off the grease off your dishes, it's stripping out the moisture, natural moisture out of your scalp, which will be detrimental. So then when I formulated my herbal cleanser, not even a shampoo because it doesn't have SLS in it, um, and it had lots of herbs in there as well to nourish and heal my scalp, and I was able to solve that. But again, I had to slow down. I also found out that because I make my natural ingredients and I use essential oils. Essential oils are just like nature's gift to humanity. And then I realized though that again, when I would put a product with any citrus oil on those parts of my scalp, it would flare up. You
Oh,
know, yeah, citrus oil in particular. Then I don't put citrus oils or products with citrus oils on my scalp, even though I have products with citrus oils in it, or I know to just put it on my hair, but keep it away from that part of my scalp. Everyone's going to be different because over each lifetime, each person's lifetime, you may have developed sensitivities to certain things. So coming back to what people say, because I've heard don't grease your scalp. Like for years, we heard, grease your scalp, right? It's what you did. You washed your hair, you grease your scalp. And then people in the hair community say, no, you don't put any grease on your scalp. That clogs your pores and you just screw your hair. And at the time, I was like, oh, that's news to me. But then I found, okay, let me just see, because the science was that if you moisturize your hair is attached to your scalp, so the residue of that grease is going to get to your scalp. So again, since locking my hair, I don't I don't really grease my scalp anymore. I do put oil on it occasionally, but that's more my growth oil. And that's more for those benefits of stimulating my follicles as opposed to because the scalp is dry. I don't get dry scalp and I don't methodically grease my scalp, if that even of my daughters. So but then there might be other people out there that they might say, but if I don't grease my scalp is going to be itchy or it's going to be flaky. So you have to check in with yourself. Probably don't grease it, but grease your hair properly and see what happens. Also, you might be having dry scalp. I found this again, that's why I formulated that shampoo, the two-in-one herbal cleanser. Many people have dry scalp issues because of how they're cleansing their hair. It's like they're over cleansing. They're
mm,
stripping goodness out of their scalp, and this is how the market is a bit, not a bit, but very perverse. It sells you products, it sells us black women products that strips out the goodness and
yeah,
then sells us things to put the goodness back in, make
yeah,
it make sense,
yeah.
you know. So you want to be cleansing your hair more gently. There are other people now that will say, no, every time you wash your hair, it's got to shampoo. You got no, you can co-wash every two washes on the third wash, have a more intense cleanse, you know. Again, you've got to put the time and effort in just to see what works for you, right? Because if you're washing your hair regular, you probably don't need to, and I'm using the word cleanse, and people probably don't know the difference because this is very formulated speak here. But as I said, SLS is a cleansing agent. Every cleanser, every shampoo has to have a cleansing agent. Otherwise, it's not cleaning. It's doing something but not cleaning. And that is when you get some foam. But the less harsh the cleansing agent is the less foam you're going to get. So in my cleanser, you get a sud,
Oh, right.
but it's still cleaning your hair,
Yeah.
not as intensely. And because as well, once I'm putting oils and herbs in there, that's going to reduce the efficacy of the cleanser, but it's doing something good for your hair. But you need to take the time to see. If you're the kind of person you don't want to think about it, you just want to wash your hair every fortnight, no thinking, and it works. I mean, you might get some results with products, and then I know that a lot of people say after a few months they're going to switch to something else because their hair adapts. But I just find if you take the time to learn your hair, you will know, oh, okay, my hair reacts to this with these things. So I only use that when once a month or twice a month, or I'll take that on my regime altogether. But do not be, I say all of that to say, don't depend only on what people are telling you. You need to take the time out to just listen to yourself. I always say the body speaks and it speaks very loud.
Yeah.
Tell you, I mean, you know this, in the work that you do, your body will tell you when something's not off. If you're a little bit more inflamed, if you're a little bit more bloated, if your skin's extra dry, something's going on, you'll tell you. So tap in and start to listen. Then it's almost a little bit experimental because you're going to try. oh, put this on my scalp. And as you can't just do it once, you've got to usually give something. They say 60 days to see if it's really working, and then make an assessment. So slow down. We're so used to promising us instant results. Miracle this. I think used to have some product called Miracle Grow and this and that. We buy into all of that. Do you know what I mean? Use this and you're gonna get instant results. It doesn't really work like that. Take your time and learn yourself, learn your body, learn your scalp, learn your skin, learn your hair.
Thank you, sis. So, one of the things that also comes along when people are like learning how to look after their hair through social media is obviously there's a lot of brands using social media to promote their products. And what I do find a little bit disconcerting sometimes is even like really high quality natural brands just have loads of products and people sometimes feel the needs and when they're demonstrating the how to use their products, it's like you got to buy like 6 products. It's like a Korean skincare 11-step program thing. And I've always felt a bit uncomfortable with the amount of products that people end up putting on. Like I remember I tried to do a 4-step skincare routine. And number one, it took ages. Number two, I was like, this is a lot of product. Like washed my face or wiped it down with micellar, and then I used the cleanser, then I used the toner, then I put a serum on, then I put a moisturizer. I'm like, this is long. This feels like why can't I just wash and moisturize my face? And the same with hair care. Now, I've grown my hair from being bald to this in a year and 4 months, and I barely do anything with my hair. And my children have all grown their hair with barely doing anything to their hair. But like again, a lot of really good skincare companies that say, this is how you look after your hair. It's like there's a shampoo, and then there's a conditioner, and then there's a leave-in conditioner. And I've heard people say put in leave-in conditioner every day, and then there's a growth oil, and then there's a moisture spritz, and then there's an edge thing, and it just even with really high quality ingredients,
Yeah.
some people do find I can't afford to look after my natural hair because of all the things that I'm going to need to look after it. And it's just all, even if it's not, even if they're like £15 a bottle and a whole skincare range might cost £75, there are some skincare ranges, hair care ranges, sorry, where those 6 ingredients might cost all £200 and it takes a lot of time. And I know that that's why a lot of sisters will be like, I don't have the time or money to look after my hair properly, because part of what they're being taught is that to look after your natural hair and to care for your natural hair, you need to take all of these products plus a couple gummies, plus a couple supplements, plus a couple tonics. Do you know what I mean? What advice would you give sisters that have that, that concern?
Yeah, well, capitalism is a real one. The reality is, again, because because everybody almost expects there to be a particular thing or a particular cure resolution, then people can get away with marketing a ton of things at you. That's not to say that each of those individual products are good, whether or not you need to use them or to get a result. That's the bit that's up for question. Now, again, I over the years really had my eye on affordability as well, because another thing that kind of made me feel indignant was a lot of the good products were very expensive. So it's like, oh, if you can't afford these, now you're just going to be left with the crap and make do. No, because again, remember, we're using natural ingredients that some of them can even be free. Now, let me tell you, if you want to go out and grow your own rosemary, for example, which is a great ingredient for hair, you want to grow your own lavender, you want to grow your calendula and then infuse it into your different oils. So some of this stuff, again, you got to have time, but it's not. The expense comes from the fact that it takes more time, I suppose, than making this mass-produced, really cheap stuff. But the ingredients in of themselves, not all, some are, frankincense is not cheap, but some of them are not. So, though, I could, why the short answer is why you often get lots of steps. Again, it's because people don't really know and they're dependent on the information. So if you tell them it's 10 steps, they say, oh, okay. And then they're going to buy 10 products. Bottom line, profitability for the company. But, if you want to stay clear from that, again, just understand what goes into your skin need. Again, so we have a face care kit which consists of 3 products. Yeah. Now, depending on some people's skin, they only use the 2 products, which I'll explain. And I do quite a few workshops with different groups with these products. And the more I talk to women, I get to understand their issues, which have been really good over the years in really refining these 3. Now, you want to cleanse. You need something to cleanse your skin, right? Whether you wear makeup or not. A lot of women will say to me, I don't wear makeup, so I just wash with water. But our skin will attract dirt, sweat, debris from the air. So you do want to be cleansing your skin. Doesn't mean it has to be a soap cleanser. It might even be just like a just really water-based cleanser. But you want some active ingredient to get the dirt off. If you just put water alone, that might not be enough. So you want to cleanse it in your routine. You want something to tone your skin, right? And to close your pores. Now, really young women probably could skip this step because they just naturally have, all that lovely collagen. It's as you start to age, let's be real, aging is real. Things come as a consequence of aging, which I've been finding out now that I'm in my 40s, right? Of course, diet will play a big part as well. Diet, lifestyle, we cannot get away from. I'm here talking about products and the care on our external, right? Our body, our face, our hair, but you cannot get away from diet and lifestyle, which I won't talk about because that's not my forte, but right? And hopefully you'll have someone on that talks about this. So those things will affect your skin tone as well. If you've got a really highly processed diet, you're going to have those dark circles, you're going to have more inflammation. And people come to me and they probably got the most awful diet and they say, what can I do for my skin? And I always will ask them about their diet because it's really important, right? But you want to tone your skin. You want to be a toner. You can have things in there like aloe vera. Aloe vera will naturally tighten. So we have our skin fix facial, no, we have, sorry, our clear and smooth cleansing facial milk. That's our first step, and that cleanses the skin, but it's not a it doesn't foam. It's not a foaming cleanser, because as I said, a bit like with the scalp, it happens with the face. A lot of foaming cleansers, not all, will strip out the moisture out of your skin. Now your skin's too dry, and then because the body's so intelligent, it sends receptors to your brain to says dry skin, and now you start to produce more oil. So a lot of people have oily skin purely because have a routine that dries out their skin, and then the skin overcompensates with the oil. And it's like a vicious circle. So if you can cleanse your skin like with an oil-based cleanser, a lotion-based cleanser, you eradicate that problem straight away. So in our cleanser, we have the castor oil, goes deep into the pores. You have the lemon, and it just goes in. You put it on like a lotion, and with your face cloth, you can wipe it off, hot face cloth, rinse it. Very quick, right? Then you want a toner. I would say it depends on your skin, but I say maybe over 35. You want to include toning into your regime, maybe over 30, depends on your skin and your lifestyle. And then you want a moisturizer, 3 steps: cleanse, tone, moisturize. If you skip the toner, then it's cleanse and moisturize. And do I need to explain why we need to moisturize? But the reality is, our skin. I know a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. I feel like other people, other nations, they moisturize too. Now they're understanding, but probably not their whole body, but definitely their face. But your skin needs moisture, right? It's going to keep it supple, plump. It's going to help with blemishes if you have blemishes. It's going to help with the hydration. The moisturizer, really, that's when you want your active ingredients to get into your skin and to do the extra that needs to be done. Yeah, to add the softness, to add suppleness. If you have got blemishes or spots, the moisturizer should be helping with those things. So you want to be making sure, rather than having like those 10 steps, like you have one with ceramides and one with peptides, and like you put it into one. You could, or the people that make these could put it into one product, you know or maximum 2. So I don't know if you know the difference between a serum and a moisturizer. A moisturizer is like a cream, a lotion base. So you have oils and you have water that will moisturize your skin. Depending on how much oils you have in it, it depends on how moisturizing it is. Yeah. Then you will have a serum, which a serum basically is where you have it's like a water and oil mixture, because water is a great ingredient for hair and skin, and that's what's going to help the other stuff to absorb. So serums can be quite light to touch, but they pack a punch because you can get a load of really good active ingredients in there, those ceramides and those peptides and those different essential oils, like an aloe vera base, and it's going to just get it into your skin really quickly. And then oil, let's not forget about our good friend oils. Some people just moisturize with oil, and I'm a fan of oil. Even for people who have oily skin, for how I just explained, it will help to reset those receptors and balance your skin out. Sometimes like castor oil can be quite thick, so you might want to dilute that 50-50 with say jojoba oil. Jojoba oil is the oil that is most like our natural sebum. So you're
Mm,
always going to get a good result with jojoba oil. You know, it feels really natural to the body. So you could just use pure jojoba oil. It's also one of the expensive oils because I think the plant really gets harvested once every 4 years or something like that. So again, I spent a lot of time researching this and then I've put it into these three products. But sometimes people say, do I need to use three? Can I just use one? I just want, and I say, okay, you decide. But ultimately, this is how they work together. But if you want to skip a step, this is what you're skipping.
mm,
Yeah. So no, you don't necessarily need the 10 steps, but you need to make sure that the products that you are using are doing what you need them to do. So if you do have blemishes and you want them to be removed, is there active ingredients in that cream that's going to remove the blemishes? You know, things like lemon essential oil, great. Cocoa butter, great for that. That's what we have in our Skin Fix facial moisturizer. If you have quite large pores and you want to shrink those pores or have to tighten your skin, you want things in there like aloe vera, you want tea tree in there. That's what we have in our Second Skin facial toner. So, like, understanding what is the ingredients in the product that is doing whatever the company says it's doing.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people because I live and breathe this, you know, I just love creating and I'm always finding out new things, even after all these years. I make stuff for my children and my family that I don't sell, but we make it for us because I want to use these ingredients and find out what they do. But I know there are people that do not have the patience. They are not setting up a double boiler. They're not melting shea butter. They're not whipping. And I get it. It's not for everybody. But if that is you and you have curiosity, I want you to know that you can. You know, you can do it even with no training. Yeah, I
Mm,
would say as a black woman, it's kind of like it's in you,
yeah.
whether you know it or not. But it's in you because your ancestors will have done some of this stuff recently. I went to Jamaica, second time in my life, as an adult going to Jamaica. Why am I only finding out now that my great grandma used to make her own coconut oil? You
Ah,
know, I had no idea. I had no idea. And it's like, okay, you talk about, these things and these ways of living and what gets passed down, like genetically. So there was a time once where you couldn't get all these products and
mm,
people lived more in tune to nature and they knew how to harvest the benefits of certain plants, infusions, putting herbs in oil, extractions and all of that stuff. So if you just allow yourself to slow down, and now we do have the benefit of the internet, you
yeah.
can get so much information so you can figure out how to help yourself. And if it's not your way, or of course you do that, but you can't necessarily make everything yourself. Like we make soaps, deodorant, shampoo bars, after many years of learning and refining and training. So you might want to buy some products, but just know that you can, you woman, black woman out there that you've been battling or you think you want to wear your hair a certain way, but you feel like, oh, it's not going to look good or you don't know where to start. You can. That's my message to you. Say you can. Just slow down and take the time to learn your hair, learn your skin, learn your body, and it will talk to you.
Mm. What are the kind of, thank you for that. What are the kind of main challenges that you have found Black women face with their hair and their skin? And what do you think could be causing, obviously it's different for everyone, but just like on a general basis, what do you feel are the main things that Black women struggle with their hair and their skin? And what do you think could be causing them?
Okay. Clothing. So for hair, a lot of us, myself included, I told you the journey I went on. Some of the damage I've done to my scalp was irreversible. So traction alopecia, I think, is a big one for women. If you've had any in an extended period of time where you had really tight hairstyles, yeah, or you've had chemical treatments that burnt your scalp, you're gonna have some scalp damage, let's call it then. Yeah, scalp damage is the big one. But people learn to conceal it. But one of the worst ways I think people do it is that they just cover it up. So they'll just put a weave on it, or now you've got all types of different weaves. Not against wearing weaves, but then now your scalp can't breathe. Now your scalp's not getting any sunlight. So whatever would have naturally helped it to heal and recover, you're just stopping that process. A lot of women do experience that. So there's a lot of scalp issues. Or as they get older, they'll find that their texture has changed. The hair might feel a lot drier, a bit more brittle than it did. Um, and then some of that will be to how it's being managed. So again, are you still using very harsh chemicals on your hair, whether it be through the shampoos or the even the conditioners? Because a lot, if it's being mass produced, I'm telling you, it's going to have some stuff in there that's not good for you. It feels good because things like petroleum feel greasy, they feel oily. Silicones feel like when you detangle, you put a conditioner with silicone, your curls just slide through. But what silicones are doing, they're coating your hair shaft with something that's making it feel slippy. Well,
Oh,
if you would just understand that there are natural things that can do that, but silicones are a lot cheaper to do it with. I think they're another byproduct, I think probably of plastic. So a lot of what they put in the product, they look for the benefit that a natural thing would give to you, but for a
yeah.
lot cheaper. If that
Mm,
makes sense. So you want to try to cut out those things, the silicones and the parabens, understanding is, and for the biggest reasons why it's not even for just how it makes your hair feel, it's what it's doing to you internally.
right.
It's disrupting your endocrine system, yeah, giving you more kind of like estrogen that you don't need in your body. So it's all linked, right? So it's all linked. So you want to be checking your diet, your hydration. The biggest thing you want to be doing is hydrating because I always use my plants as an example as well. When my plants are getting good sunlight and water, they thrive. Sometimes I could have neglected a plant, probably been away. And the moment I care and tend to it, literally the next day the plant just looks like a different
Yeah.
plant. The leaves uncurl, everything opens up. It's the same with our hair, really, and our scalp. You do something consistently and you will see those results. Your body will feel it. Sometimes, maybe because when we're drinking water, we can't see what's going on with our scalps. We don't make the connection, but it's really making a difference. So, you want to be yes, health issues is a big one for women, especially as they get older. So if you're a young woman watching this, I would say really love your hair. I always say treat your hair like a very fine silk.
Yeah.
Don't hand your hair off. Don't be putting those combs that have got all the little plastic sticking off the bits, when they're in the molding and they didn't clean it off properly. Now every time you comb your hair, you're getting little breakage. You don't even know it. So really be a bit particular when you comb your hair. Slow down. Don't be cranking the brush where you're hearing and then the brush is full of hair. That didn't need to come out. So slow down with your hair. Treat it like a fine silk. If you had a fine silk dress, you wouldn't be putting a hot iron on it. I mean, you wouldn't be washing it with everything else. You'd be really treating it with some tender loving care. Treat your hair like that. And the earlier you start to do that, you'll reap the benefits later. A lot of us in our older age now, it's like damage limitation,
Yeah.
trying to recover what we messed up. But if you can already implement that younger, you'll avoid that. You won't have the traction alopecia and the bald spots all over trying to regrow your hair. But if you did, like me, make those errors because you didn't know, you can still bring your hair back. Yeah. Some
Mm,
damage will be irreparable. Let's just be real, but it depends. So with our strong roots hair oil, I always say you have to use it to find out if your hair follicles are dormant or dead, and you
okay.
won't know because a hair follicle could be dormant for years
Mm,
because it didn't get the right stimulation. But the moment you put something on there that's stimulating, that has stimulating ingredients, we use cayenne extract. If you know about cayenne pepper, then you know that's good, very, very good internally and externally. And then you stimulate that follicle, and you're like, whoa, the hair's growing in a spot that had no hair for 10 years. So there are things that you can do. But yeah, take the time to do them and don't expect overnight results because you didn't damage your hair overnight, right? And then when it comes to our skin, I think one of the biggest issues with women generally as well can be dryness and a lot of people call it hyperpigmentation, right? Blemishes on the skin. And a lot of that will be to do with what's going on internally. You want to make sure you're hydrating. You want to be taking supplements. I mean, I found out, a couple of myself again as an example, a few months ago, I realized that when I would get like a blemish or a little cut, it would not heal as quickly as it used to. Um, and when it did heal, it left a very, very dark mark. Now, as you know, as we age, our skin reduces in collagen. And collagen is what helps with healing. It helps with the plumpness. We as melanated women have a lot more collagen than other people, but it's still, will start to dwindle over time. So I remember I came to Yulia and I got some of those vegan collagen capsules, which I think they've done something because I've seen a difference, as well as taking some other supplements as well. So I just say, be aware, don't be up squeezing all spots on your face if they have, it's time to stop that because they will create blemishes and I think the skin will be harder to heal and they'll probably be even darker than when you were younger. Those things would come and maybe after a couple of days it would fade away. I feel like as you age, the fade away does not happen as quickly. So you want to avoid that in the first place. You want to be cleansing fully. You want to be exfoliating your skin at least once a week. You can do a simple DIY one with a bit of demerara sugar and some olive oil. You don't need to go out and buy a whole scrub again, just education, understand what is an exfoliator, and you just do that, and you just can exfoliate once a week. You get a great exfoliation. So just really slowing down to take care of your skin, understanding, seeing how it reacts to things, hydrating yourself from the inside, putting things on your skin which you understand what it's doing for your skin. Sometimes people come to me and they'll say, "Oh, my skin's really dry," or "My scalp's," and I say, "What are you putting on it?" And they'll say, "Oh, just some I don't want to name products, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like the cheapest product you can find in the hair shop." And you feel like, well, what how do you think your skin's going to be if that's what some people will spend more on, let's face it, you know what I mean? Things that really don't matter, whether that be clothing or bags that really don't add any value to you and your kind of well-being, and won't give a second thought to what they actually put on themselves and in themselves, which is having a lasting impact. So
Mm.
really like treat yourself well. Don't even see it as treating yourself. Like some people buy products like, oh, it's true. No, you're just doing what you need to do for you. You're treating yourself well, not treat like, oh, something you do rarely. No, you are
Yeah.
treating yourself well. And that is something that you should be doing daily. Treat yourself well, respect your body, love yourself, love your hair. Because when you do, you will be very mindful about how you're treating it, what you're putting on it, how how you're manipulating it. All of those things will become second nature. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
As far as those challenging ingredients, now I would definitely recommend products like Pure Goodness, like yourself, like Nyla Naturals. Um, I'm not going to name, but there was another one I was going to name, but I've heard they've been taken over by another company and now their products are not so great anymore. But there are a few like Flora and Curl. There are a few like really good skincare
Yeah.
brands. If people for any reason can't get hold of, like the kind of approved ones, I guess,
Mm.
what are the three main ingredients that you recommend people, sisters, stay away from the most, if they're on a mission to find them? Because obviously I think from this, people, hopefully sisters realize looking at ingredients is a really good first thing to
Mhm.
start doing. That consciousness, that awareness, that education,
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
curiosity with yourself and with the products that you're
Mhm.
starting to buy. So, what are the three main ingredients that you would recommend
Mhm.
sisters would definitely should
Staying away
stay
from.
away from when it comes to skin and hair care products?
Okay, all right. So let's see if these jump to mind. I think the first one that jumps to my mind is parabens.
Mm.
Now, parabens are used in a lot of products. I won't say all, but majority of the products because they're very stable. Again, making products is a scientific process, a bit like making food, processed food, right? In fact, let's use processed food. If you make processed food, you can leave it on the shelf for
Mhm.
months, sometimes years, right? And it will not go bad. If you make fresh food, you're lucky if it can last a couple of days in the fridge.
Yeah.
Same thing with so if you make a natural product, I say that and you don't preserve it, yeah, all of our products are preserved. Once you start selling to the public, you have to preserve them, but we use the most natural preservative. Um, but if I was to make my products and not preserve them, which has happened in the past, made the product, gone back to preserve it, but left it just a day, no, not a day, couple of days, and it's gone, has to go in the bin. Right. These things need to be preserved, they will spoil, right? So parabens will keep the product stable, like on a shelf for years. That is why it's used. So it's in preservatives in a lot of these products. But you want to stay away from that because that is one of the biggest endocrine disruptors. And I know I've said that word quite a few times, but your endocrine system basically is one of your main bodily systems. And again, I'm not a scientist, don't quote me, but what I understand, it helps it's your hormones. So it's going to affect your hormones in different ways, which is really, as women, when we see that as Black women, we have a high number of incidences of fibroids and things like that, and cysts. All of these things are connected. The powers that be will never tell you that they are, but you don't need to be a scientist to kind of make the links. So you want to avoid these things in your body, and only God knows how long it takes for these things to exit your body. And I always say this. A lot of us as Black women, we have kind of been guinea pigs
Yeah.
because the products that we've been consuming, whether they be relaxers, and again, I'm not hating on relaxers, but these things have been pretty damaging, right? They haven't had the long-term clinical studies and trials that a product would need to be able to deem it safe. You
Mhm.
know, we don't need to go too far back to see when these things were beginning to be made. Clinical studies go on for decades, clinical trials. That hasn't been done. Now you've got to ask yourself, why is that? Is it that this tests haven't been done because we, black women, are the consumers, and maybe in this Western society we don't hold that value, so they're not going to bother with the test, right? And then the test and the experiment comes, when we've been using these things for at least 3 or 4 decades now, and we can see certain high incidences of all kinds of ailments, right? Don't need to name them. So just like you got to sit down and like do your own thinking sometimes. Like stay away from parabens. I'd also say stay away from aluminium. We make our super fresh deodorant
Yeah.
aluminium free. Aluminium, is metal, right? I find it crazy now to think that once upon a time I didn't find it unusual to see deodorant 48-hour protection.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
48 hours protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, there's so many things wrong in that statement. Because why do you need
Thank
to be
you.
protected for 2 days?
Who's not washing
Why,
in
if you're
every day?
washing, yeah, if you're washing daily, then why would you need 2 days protection? Make that make sense. Secondly, sweat, like every other kind of excretion, is very natural and very necessary. So anything that is going to stop you from sweating should be looked at with a lot of suspicion.
Yeah.
You need to sweat as much as you need to go to the toilet. If you're not sweating, something's wrong, like really wrong. You release toxins when you sweat. So what you want a deodorant to do really is to minimize any kind of smell that you might get from sweating, to reduce odor, let's say. And some of them might make you sweat less, but you do not want to stop sweating. It is so important. Whereas aluminium deodorants, they block up your pores. Literally, you're spraying, like the particles are so tiny that you're spraying these small particles of aluminium that block your sweat glands. So I don't know where those toxins get rediverted to, but you think about traffic, and the road's blocked. The traffic needs to go somewhere. It doesn't disappear. Is that what's backing up in people and now manifesting as a certain ailment? I don't know. Do the thinking, but you don't want to be putting aluminium on your body. And I love it when I see people buying our deodorant for the children, because
Yeah.
like, wow, thank you. They're never going to be on that journey of starting off and then having to switch. It's better that you just don't start in the beginning with the aluminium. So stay away from aluminium. Um, and don't be scared. I find a lot of adults are very scared to smell themselves, right? They're scared. They're so scared to smell themselves, so they will just keep with the aluminium for the sake of not being embarrassed. So I taught people through the process. If you've been using aluminium deodorant like all your kind of life since you was a teenager, and now you're in your 30s or 40s, there's going to be a transition period,
Yeah.
right? Because you've been blocking those pores for a couple of decades. So the moment you stop, not only are you going to smell, but you're going to smell more than you usually would, because it's like the floodgates are open. So there is a transition period. So what I tell people to do is in that period when you wash clearly, wash well, and then you carry your deodorant and some wipes with you. So throughout the day, you can wipe and reapply should you need to until evening. Um, and give it on that 60-day rule. Over that 60-day period, your body will detox. A lot of those toxins will have gone, and you should normalize and stabilize and not need to reapply throughout the day. But if you're not willing to go through that process, you can never break the cycle. And I don't know if there's another way. If there is another way, then please someone tell me. But what I've found, that's what's happened for people. Other people will say that you're sweating and that is linked to your diet as well. So the cleaner you eat, you might find that you can gradually get to the point where you don't need a deodorant at all. But again, that's when you're eating really clean. Because let's face it, what goes in is what comes out, right? So you want to get rid of parabens, you want to get rid of aluminium. I'm thinking the third one I'd say then is mineral oil. Now, mineral oil is basically liquid petroleum, and petroleum is, supplied and produced en masse throughout the world. Petroleum, petrol, essentially. Petroleum is a derivative of petrol. You know that we use petrol as a fuel for lots of different things. And I told you capitalism is a thing because it doesn't want to waste anything. Even the waste of the waste, it doesn't want to waste. If
Yeah.
it can use the waste product, it's going to use the waste product. So a lot of what you find in the skincare, oh my gosh, it's just really perverse when you think about it. It's the waste products, yeah, of the thing that they've already made billions of. They're still milking it for more money. And petroleum is what they call it's an inclusive. It doesn't penetrate the skin barrier. It sits on top. So that is why again, I don't know if I should be naming names, but there's a very famous lip care brand,
Yeah.
and you see people with the circular tins in it and they're putting it on. And then when you check it, it feels like every 30 minutes they're putting it
Yeah.
on. And you think, well, yeah, isn't this thing really moisturizing? And no, it's not. It's actually providing a barrier to moisture getting in or out. It like just locks it in. It just
Yeah.
locks your skin. Anything can't get in, anything can't get out. So now your skin's not breathing because you've just plastered this thing on it, and it's not really, but it feels greasy. And because we've been hoodwinked into loving a greasy feel, we feel like, oh yeah, moisturize, but no, it's not. So you want to stay away from mineral oil, and it will show up in many. It's got different names, petroleum, petroleatum. Mineral oil will be one of them, like the baby oil. Baby oil is literally a
Right.
whole bottle of mineral oil with a nice scent, right? This thing is wild. So you want to stay away from that. Even a lot of, again, my middle child, when she was young, they said she had eczema, and they were just giving us all these products to put in the bath, all these emollients, but they
Yeah.
are literally just mineral oil, right? And that is why you come out the bath and the skin looks good. 2 hours later, it's dried and dry. You think, what's
Mhm.
going on? The
Yep.
mineral oil will never cure. It will never get to the root. It will just manage the symptoms. And what you can do with natural ingredients is that you can really get to root causes and really have a longer lasting benefit.
Mm. Wow, that's quite an education. Thank you. Thank you, sis. So,
You're
um,
welcome.
how can sisters find you and the work that you do and the products that you sell, so that they can start incorporating them into their natural skin and hair care journey?
Okay, so we now we sell in a couple of physical spaces, which I'll name, but we predominantly sell via our website, which is www.puregoodnesslondon.com. Actually, though, we're now physically based in the West Midlands. We were in London for most of our time, and a couple of years we relocated here. But online we ship everywhere overseas as well. So through the website, we Leah, she stocks a selection of our products over at the Naturally You Health Centre. Whoop, whoop. Wonderful. One of our main stockists in London is Diverse, which is on 390 Cold Harbour Lane in Brixton. We've been in the shop for a very long time. As part of our journey, we were actually physically based there. We made our products in store and sold them there. So we've had a very long, productive relationship with Diverse. You can get most of our range there. I think they had Diverse Gifts on socials. And we also sell at events. So now, it's come to the summer, we'll do more in-person events. A couple of months ago, we were at Kemby's, Return to Your Roots in Birmingham. And we go to the Black Culture Market, which is at the department store, Ferndale Road in Brixton. We were there in June. We'll be there again on the 2nd and 3rd of August, the Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, at pop-ups as they come along. So I'd say check out our Instagram, which is Pure Goodness London. We tend to post where we're going to be. And also go to the website. You can send us an email, direct message. I'm always open for a chat with people as well if you've got any particular questions about ingredients or products.
Wonderful. And what would be your kind of like parting words to sisters who are struggling on their skin and hair care journey? They've heard what you've, said and the advice that you've shared. What would be your like parting words to them?
I would say don't give up. There's hope. And I say that because you if you're struggling, there's definitely a reason why you're struggling. It could just be that you haven't understood first, because you can be doing the wrong thing for a long time. It's
Yeah.
going to give you a wrong result. You get it? So it could just be that you haven't understood what it is that you should be doing yet. And once you understand that, that will change. You have to stay open to persevere to get the right information. So whether it's with your hair, and also I would say there's got to be some acceptance as well about whether it be your hair texture. Now that we have so much access to information, a lot of people will be seeing other people's hair and wanting their look like that. You need to understand what is your hair texture, what is your, all the characteristics of your hair, and fully embrace that. Fully embrace you, embrace your hair, embrace your skin, and then learn your hair and learn your skin, because you could have been doing something today because you were told that's just what we do as black women, and actually that is not what you should be doing. Key one for me would be how often you should wash your hair. I mean, growing up, I think I didn't wash my hair nearly as often as I should have, but water on the hair is a wonderful thing. The hair loves it. And again, we probably don't like it as natural sisters because we get the shrinkage and then we've got to do the whole moisture thing, but just from a hydration point of view, water on the hair is great. So maybe be willing to do something that maybe you haven't been doing, or maybe it's willing to go against what you've been doing for a long time, because maybe that's the thing that's been holding you back. It's to be open to doing something different, and you've got to be sometimes a little bit experimental, because what works for one sister probably isn't going to work for the next sister by virtue of the fact that you are just two different people with different hair types and skin types. I think generally with skin, though, you can find that lots of things will work. The same thing will work for people generally in comparison to hair. Hair texture tends to require sometimes a little differential treatment than skin. So yeah, I say persevere and be willing to do something slightly different. And don't think you've got to now always buy a bag of products to start off. You actually don't. You can probably start with one, and also don't sleep on yourself in terms of what you can do. So for example, say all of our hair needs hydration, and you might be buying lots of hydrating stuff when you could just be getting some spring water. You could be just basically making a rosemary tea as you would make a tea,
Yeah.
and with some horsetail, and that could be your hair mist. Like, it costs you what? If you forage it yourself, it's probably cost you nothing. You've got to keep it in the fridge though, because anything with natural kind of materials in there will go bad. It's natural. But if you make a small batch, like a cup of tea size, and you split your hair with that over the week, you are going to get phenomenal benefits, probably more benefits than you would get from a product that you would buy, because it doesn't get fresher than that, right? So yeah, don't sleep on the things that you're able to create for yourself. There are lots of people now online teaching, giving step-by-step tutorials, whether you like long form content or short form content. Just be willing and open sometimes to do something for yourself, what you can do, because you can.
Well, just before you wrap up though, you touched on something that I think I should have definitely asked, which is the washing of the hair. I've heard people say they wash their hair once or twice a week. So I've literally two
Mhm,
sisters who have both got good quality, like healthy hair. One of them says they wash their hair twice
mhm,
a week. The other one says they don't wash their hair any more than every 4 to 6 weeks. And they both have good hair.
mhm.
What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Okay, let me challenge you first on good hair. We all got good hair, sister.
So one
No,
sister's
Josh.
got one sister's got a big afro and her hair just grows
Yeah,
voluptuously. Like she could cut it off and her hair would be double my length in the same
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to grab this back. The other sister's got a lot,
Okay.
she's a loctician. She's got like
Yeah.
down to her butt. And it's
Mhm.
strong. So when I say good hair, I mean like
Yeah.
natural,
I know what
healthy,
you mean. Yeah.
growing.
I
Yeah.
No, I was just pulling your leg and remembering that good hair
No,
documentary.
that's
No, the
good.
good hair documentary.
Let's
Yeah,
pull that up.
yeah,
Because some people might have thought I meant they've got like long wavy hair or something. No, they've just got a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
long,
yeah. No,
strong.
no, no. I say healthy hair is good hair. So you said that, yeah, healthy hair
Yeah.
is good hair, right? Good hair is healthy hair. Now the thing is, right? I feel like in all these conversations, we often forget to talk about genetics, and that
Yeah.
plays a big part. So hair density and strand thickness, which is that basically is down to genetics. So
Mm,
if you have got, again, let's talk physics. If you've got a lot of hair strands, yeah, so you've got a lot of hair strands, and each strand is a bit thick. So your hair can endure more. Think about a rope that's made up of 100 individual small ropes. You can pull that rope, pull that rope, pull that rope. It's resilient. If you've got a rope that's probably made out of 10 of those individual strands, it's going to be weaker. So it's the same principle. So if you have got thick hair, and it's dense. Some people can have thick hair, but they don't have a lot of strands. Yeah,
right.
this would get technical. But if you've got thick strands and you've got a lot of strands, that kind of is my formula from what I've seen growing up as well, and the people around me, and now got 3 children with different hair types.
Yeah.
That makes for some very resilient hair. That's the hair that you probably could leave in braids for 10 years, and you probably wouldn't get any
Mhm.
traction alopecia, because
Yeah.
when you braid your hair, you've more hair going into each braid. I have got very low density hair, as in the not a lot of strands, and the strands are thin. So you braid your hair back to back for a few years, you're going to be doing your scalp some damage,
Mhm.
right? So that now also feeds into the washing, because depending on how much hair you got is how much your scalp is covered. More strands cover your scalp, less strands expose your scalp. And it can do with lifestyle as well, the environment you're in, if you're doing like sweat activities where you got to sweat and things. But generally, again, from my experience, I grew up, no, don't wash your hair, don't wash your hair. I think we would wash our hair like once a month,
Yeah.
stretching to 6 weeks. However, for me, I found that my hair and my hair type works well with a weekly wash, though I don't wash it weekly, right? I'm being honest. But it works well. If I were to wash it weekly, even the locks, it would be fine. Now, locks is a bit as well. I feel like you can
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can endure more with locks. But my hair really appreciates that water. And if it was loose, natural, maybe every 2 weeks, let's say, the fine hair every 2 weeks, because the moisture boost it gets is just wonderful. Then I just put a leave-in conditioner and some oil, and I'm good because that is it. It's all about the dryness. Healthy hair as well, it will be moisturized hair. Moisturized hair is healthy hair. And when you leave your hair too long without washing it, it will get very dry. And you can be putting lots of products on it, but the products are not penetrating. So when you wash your hair, it's like it's like a reset of
Yeah,
moisture.
yeah,
You get all this moisture on your hair through the water, and now you can just kind of add a little bit of leave-in and some oils, but you're always getting your moisture. But if you go in 6 weeks and you're not putting any water on it, it's gonna be
mm,
very dry. But if your hair's really, really thick or you got really dense strands, maybe that dryness might be a bit inconsequential. But if your strands are a bit thinner, a little bit weaker, then that dryness will be consequential because you're going to get breakage. Dry hair breaks,
mm,
moisturized hair breaks less. Do you get it? So that is why I say I'm always saying learn your hair because what does your hair look like or feel like after 6 weeks? Yeah, I
mm.
mean, when it has not been washed, what does your hair feel like after a week after it's been washed? What does it feel like after 2 weeks? So pay attention to that, and you will find out. You will see quite quickly. Maybe until now, you just haven't been paying attention.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
don't say that in a way you're not paying real attention to your hair. You just
yeah,
kind of either doing what everyone else does, or we get so caught up with life, we just
yeah,
oh, it's been a month, or oh, people wash their hair when their scalp starts itching. I feel
yeah.
like if you're washing your hair when you start itching, you've definitely left it too long because again, you got sweat. Sweat. If you just think if you didn't wash your body for a month, okay, that's a bit
Ooh.
extreme. But can you the amount of blood and sweat? So it's like your scalp, yeah, has got a lot of sweat, especially at this time of the year now. It's a bit warm. A lot of sweat just sitting on your scalp. And
Mm,
remember, what's in sweat? Toxin that needs to go. So you just want to be washing away stuff and resetting. But then, if like before, what used to put me off washing my hair when I was younger, before this knowledge, it would get so dry, and it
yeah,
would take a whole week before it would revert to some type of way that would be looking or feeling nice, and that would put me off. I don't want to go through that. So if you know how to manage it once you've washed it afterwards, and that isn't that whole hair care routine that has you with
yeah.
your arms in the air
Headache.
for 10 hours. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's a simple moisture, braid, let it dry while it's stretched out. Next day, you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, sis. Thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for your advice, for your encouragement. And I will be sharing all your links and contact details in this episode. Thank you, sisters, for tuning in to another episode of Naturally You Radio. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. You can still find us on social media at the Naturally You Coach or just search for Leah Salmon. And to find out the other things that we're doing and our previous episodes, you can go to the naturallyyoucoach.com/podcast or the naturallyyoucoach.com. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care and stay healthy.